Hi, this is a pretty cool picture, right? It's from the movie Treasure Planet. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go ahead and pause this video and check it out. It's a really cool pirate adventure. We're going to use this movie for a few of our activities this week. If you don't want to or can't watch the movie, you don't have to. We'll just use our imagination. Let's look at this picture again. Pick out something that you think is really cool about it. I love the shapes of the ship. I think they're really cool and exciting. And what about this mysterious figure here? He looks like a really interesting character. What are some things that stand out to you about this picture? Alrighty, I am going to turn the time over to our awesome other teacher, Trinity, for our warm-up activity. Let's go. Take it away, Trin.
Thank you, Callie. All right, my name's Trinity, and I'm going to be leading you in the next exercise, which is called Ships and Sailors. Now, for this exercise, we need to be pirates. All right? So kind of get into that piratey mode, start thinking like a pirate would, you know, treasure, rawr, okay? Now, the way this game works, if I say starboard, you're going to hop over here. If I say port, you're going to hop all the way over here. If I say center, you're going to hot stop here and you're going to freeze. If I say man overboard, I want you to jump and touch the sky. And if I say cannon fire, you need to drop and hit the deck. Clear? Oh, and one more thing. If I ask you to swab the deck, then you better get to mopping. You ready? Okay, swab the deck. Cannon fire. Overboard. Center. Port. Starboard. Center. Center. Looking sharp, pirates. Looking sharp. Man overboard. Cannon fire. Port side, hurry. Starboard. Port side. Starboard. Center. Cannon. Overboard. Oh. All right. You feeling it? You guys ready for another round? You want to go faster? All right, if you don't want to go faster, you can skip ahead. If you do want to go faster, you better stick around. Starboard, port, center, overboard, cannon fire, port, starboard, drop, overboard, center, port, center, port, center, starboard, cannon fire, overboard, cannon fire, overboard, cannon fire, center. You kept up with me. I'm impressed. Not many soldiers can do that. Swab the deck. And swab the deck some more. Cannon fire. Port. Swab the deck and port. Starboard. Center. Overboard. Cannon fire. I think we're okay. You feeling ready? You feeling ready to move on? All right, let's move on to the next exercise. So pirates have to be really good at imitating other people and things because that's how they sneak onto other ships. So I'm going to ask you to imitate the characters from Treasure Planet. Let's start with Captain Amelia. Based on this picture, how do you think she runs? How do you think she walks? What do you think she does when she's climbing a tree? How does she hold her hands? Why do you think she holds herself this way? Does she stand straight and tall all the time, or are there times that she's not as straight and tall? What do you think she does? Next, we have Mr. Arrow. In this picture, he's holding himself tall and erect. But what do you think he does with his feet? How do you think he moves as he walks? Does he let his arms swing at his sides, or does he hold them stiff and firm? What about his head? Does it bob along with the ship as he moves? Or does he make sure to hold that straight and tall too? Next we have Dr. Doppler. Here we can see that he's a bit hunched over. He doesn't look quite as confident in himself. How would you show that in a characterization? Why do you think his ears are a little bit down? How do you think he moves when he's running? How do you think he moves when he's really excited? Next, we have Mr. Silver. As you can see, he has a robotic arm and a robotic leg. How do you think that affects his movements? The way he walks? What about the way he runs? Does it affect the way he moves himself as he's chopping vegetables or doing things about the ship? Next, we have Jim. Jim is a little bit hunched over. How do you think he carries himself when he's nervous? How do you think he carries himself when he's excited? Does he shuffle his feet a lot? Does he swing his arms when he walks? What about when he runs? Last, we have Morph. Morph is a little bit of a blob and a shapeshifter. So how do you think he moves? Does he wiggle around? Does he float gracefully through the air? If he took the form of a human, would he bob around? Would he bob his head? Would he let his arms swing at his sides?
Thanks for that awesome activity, Trinity. Man, I love these characters. They're all so different. I think my favorite is Captain Amelia. Who's your favorite? For our next activity, we're going to go on an adventure in our own home. But what does every adventure need to start with? What starts Jim on his adventure? Sure, I guess technically it's a crashing spaceship, but what starts the adventure is a map. So today, we're going to be making a treasure map. Take a look around your room. Find some items that you think of as treasure. It can be anything: books, movies, a stuffed animal, something you've made, just whatever is precious to you. And you can pick a couple of different items. Go ahead and pause this video, find your treasure, and come right back. You'll also need a piece of paper and a pencil, so go ahead and grab that too. Welcome back! You have your items? Awesome. I'll show you what I found. I have a comic book, I have my favorite movie, and I have a pop figure. What do you have? Why did you choose those things? Now for the fun part. Let's make a map. Captain Flint hid his treasure in a very clever spot. Take a look around your room or your house and see where you could hide your treasure. But make sure nobody sees you. We wouldn't want them to steal it now, would we? You have your spot? Excellent. I hid mine in the pantry in my kitchen. Don't tell my brothers. Now, let's make a map. Let's start by putting our endpoint on our map. I'm going to put mine right here. X marks the spot. Now we need to put a start place for our map. I'm going to put mine here in my room. Now, it's pretty simple to get to my treasure. You just have to go out of my room, down the hall, and into the kitchen. That's kind of boring, and pirates are not boring. So let's make this a little more piratey. How do we do that? Let's see. Think about how to get to your treasure. Do you have to go into a different room? How do you get there? How do pirates talk? They're kind of dramatic, aren't they? So instead of saying, step out of your room, let's try this. Through the portal, turn to the right. Take 4 steps and enter into the land of lunch. That's the kitchen. Search for the portal that lays beyond the surface of fire, the stove, and the grand waterfall, or the sink. And then the pantry lies right by the sink and the stove. You think they can find that? It still looks a little plain. Let's spice it up. Let's do this. Now, here's my finished product. I turned my doors into kind of like ender portals. I made the land of lunch because I love sandwiches for lunch. I added a tree, and then I made the surface of fire and the grand waterfall. So those are just some simple things you can do to give your map a little bit more color and a little more fun. My map is an example of an adventure you can have at home. Now, let's check in with Trinity for an example of something you can do if you want to be a little more creative and if you want to have a little bit more adventure with your map.
This is a map I made to show you guys an example of what Kaili is talking about. As you can see, I have made a series of islands instead of simply one piece of land. I thought that would be more interesting, and it would also give me a little bit more room to play around with things. I've named my islands the Kelmian Islands, and as you can see, they sit here in the Illyrian Ocean. Now, there's a whole history behind these islands, but we don't need to get into that. You just need to see them. We're going to start over here at Veleve Island. As you can see, there is the Sherry Plantation. It's next to Vicar City, here. There's the Damale Plantation and the Billier Lake. I thought it would be fun to have a smaller island in comparison to the rest of them, simply because it changes the dynamic of the islands around them. How does the small island interact with the larger islands? What does the small island give to the larger islands? And how do they work? I've decided that here at the Cherry and Damale Plantation, they grow wheat, which due to the climates of the other islands is very hard to grow. So they produce a lot of the food for these islands, or at least the wheat, which is considered the staff of life. Next, we have Svelia Island. It's much, much larger, but unfortunately, it's mostly sand and desert. As you can probably see here, it's a very yellow and sandy and desert place. There's only a little bit of grass up here by the Huvier Plantation, which coincidentally only grows alfalfa for horses because that's all that can grow on this island. The Perry Plantation is known for producing exotic plants because they too have a little bit of grass, but not enough to support alfalfa or anything quite like that. There's also Vune Lake, and it leads into the Vune River, which runs past the Jiffrey Sugarcane Plantation. The Jiffrey Sugarcane Plantation produces sugarcane, and they do that here in the sand where, at least in the world I've created, sugarcane is really, really good to grow in sand. There's the rock cliffs of Jabani, which were discovered by a man named Jabani, hence their name, just for kicks and giggles. And it's a very sharp pointed edge over there. I was playing around with shapes and accidentally drew that and thought, hey, we'll make that a cliff because it looks pretty fun over there. We have Merrill Port, which is the export for all of this stuff. So all of the sugarcane, all of the alfalfa, and all of the exotic plants that are grown on Svelia Island are exported at Merrill Port. Merrill Port is also the main city in the Kelmian Islands. It's the only one with a little star because it's kind of like the capital of these islands. And it's where a lot of the major decisions happen with representatives from every island. Chuka City is on the coastline, and they do a lot of fishing in Chuka City, so some of the fish they export to Merrill Port directly, or they'll send it directly to other cities around them on other islands because they're pretty close to the sea. All right, next we have Delnar Island. It's about the same size as Velve Island, but a little bit bigger with this fun little peninsula, the Flelna Peninsula. Unfortunately, nothing can grow on the Flelna Peninsula. It's too rocky and sandy, and it's another series of cliffs over there. Delnar Island has a small lake and river with Port Lillian, which does a lot of fishing business at Port Lillian. They do a lot of business with Chuka City from Svelia Island. Terrace City, they're more just like a little city that was established near the river. A man named Admar Terrace discovered this little area of the island. And then the Flelna Plantation grows sugarcane as well. So they do a little bit of exporting with Chuka City for fishing and sugarcane. And Chuka City provides a little bit of alfalfa that they get from Svelia Island, but most of the exporting for Svelia does happen at Merrill Port. This is Telegua Island. They have Port Silnaria. Now, Telegua Island is a bit dangerous. It's kind of been taken over by pirates, and it has a major Port Silnaria, which does a lot of business, mostly with pirates. So we have the Vizime Cliffs, which is where pirates like to hide. The Vizime Plantation, they grow alfalfa and sugarcane together. Chimney City is kind of where the Vismies go to conduct their business before going to Port St. Hilaire because it's a little bit closer. The Dunbar Plantation also grows alfalfa and sugarcane, and they also work with Chimney City. The Chile Plantation, they grow cactus and other plants that are really good for dyes. So the Chile Plantation is very, very wealthy in that aspect because they create a lot of dyes. We have the Arne Cliffs over here. Again, I was just playing around with shapes and decided we're going to make some cliffs. If this is an island for pirates, it needs to be relatively defensible. The last island in the Kelmian Islands is the Muralechi Island. It has the Erle Plantation and the Valais City and the Sufrana Port. The main business off of Muralecha is a little bit of wheat that they are able to grow at the Erle Plantation, not near as much as over here at Velvet Island, who grows a large majority of the wheat for everyone here in this Velvet Islands. They grow just a little bit, just enough to kind of survive over there. They have the Baisne Cliffs, which are a good defense point. There's actually old fort ruins out there. I just didn't put them on this map. They're the Baisne ruins. The Seafar River doesn't have a lake. It just kind of runs almost all the way through the island. Sufrana Port does a lot of the export for Valais City, which is kind of just another little area where people live and work and have a lot of merchanty things that happen there. Again, exports and imports that happen throughout these islands. So yeah, this is my map that I made as an example for you folks, and I hope you enjoyed this.
Trinity, thank you so much for joining me today. That map is seriously awesome. And for you at home, I hope you had fun with us today. On Wednesday, we're going to be continuing Pirate Week with more stories of adventure and more opportunities for you to start your own. Go ahead and give your map to a friend or family member, and with your parents' permission, go ahead and post it to our exclusive Facebook group. We'd love to see your work. Thanks again for joining us. Have fun, actors.